Guys, who's got a scary story to tell?
Have you guys ever heard the one about the Spanish fly and the talking frog?
Too scary.
How about the one about the co-ed and the man with the hook?
Shit, we have no hook. Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Devin.
And I'm John.
And I'm Ben Tramer.
And this is our Gulp review of Halloween 2018.
You know, I was interested in why they were doing this remake. I didn't really...
Did you ever find out why?
No. In fact, you had a good... We should be calling this movie Hallow-Why because, yeah, it doesn't really have a strong reason to exist. What they did with the story, I don't really love what they did with the story, but there were aspects of this movie that I enjoyed that I thought were fun to see kind of a slasher movie in 2018 because you don't get that kind of formula done well anymore. But yeah, I certainly had a lot of problems with this film, so...
I agree with you for that part. Like, it does have that formula that we don't see a lot, so it did feel nostalgic a little bit, even though it was trying really hard to piss me off, this movie, and go in directions I didn't want it to go. But yeah, I respect it for having that slasher vibe, even though continuity-wise, I didn't really think there was anything really particularly new or interesting about it. And as far as the filmmaking goes, this is a very... I'm not going to hate on this movie, but this is a very unfocused movie. That's the biggest... broadest thing I could say. It's very unfocused.
I'm just gonna flat out say it. I hated it. Wow. There were some things that I liked about it, but they were subtle. They were very subtle. Overall, this is a very forgettable movie for me. I was looking forward to it. You know, my birthday is October 30th, so I've always had a love for all things horror, horror movies. Halloween, the original, was one of the first horror movies I ever saw as a kid, and I loved it. Looking back on it, we noticed all these cheesy things about it, but it was a good foundation for other horror movies that followed it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all the things I heard about this movie, I had high hopes, but
I think the editing was really choppy and poorly done. The writing's pretty terrible at times.
It's the direction that was bad. I couldn't tell where anybody was or where anything was in relationship to anything else. That's like the first thing you need to have right.
Yeah, in the beginning I thought they were trying to kind of play an homage to the original film and kind of have kind of a simplistic, stripped-down style of filmmaking. For the first couple scenes, it kind of felt like maybe they were going that direction, especially with the intro, using the old title, you know, the old credits.
That's my favorite scene in the movie.
But there are some terrible things that happen, I think, in the third act that really ruin whatever you may have enjoyed with the setup of the story.
Oh, we're going to retcon aliens and put it back to number 2. I was like, stupid but interesting. This, too, it's like, oh, no Halloween movie exists. It's like, why? Why not? And this movie doesn't really explain why those others shouldn't exist.
No! I just want to get drunk.
They were thinking they're going to make a ton of money, and that they are going to do. This is going to have big box office, and because of that, the producers of this movie decided to put Michael Myers in every holiday movie between now and next Halloween.
So I hear all the big cinematic universes have now picked up the likeness of Michael Myers as well.
They had nods to the original film, and a lot of times what it was you were seeing something where Jamie Lee Curtis's character was kind of playing out something that Michael did from the original film. And sometimes it was interesting, sometimes it was groan-inducing, sometimes it was laugh-inducing. Never really fear-inducing. That's one thing this film does not do, is induce fear.
Let's talk about Jamie Lee Curtis for a second. She looks like a doll that you've pulled out of your old childhood box that you have had out up in the garage at the old family farm for about 50 years, and you're pulling it out to give it to your great-grandkid, and it just doesn't look the way it used to look. Its hair is all fucked up and frizzy. There's something about it. You almost feel like the doll just aged while it sat in that box. I love you, Jamie Lee Curtis. As a matter of fact, she was one of those like crushes I had where I was like, this is a chick, right? Like, I'm not like crushing on a dude, right? Like, I love her. I think she's amazing. I've always thought she's very talented and energetic. She was lousy in this movie, man. I think it was just her lines.
Was that the writing, though?
I think it was.
I thought her acting was terrible.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot of actors...
They didn't even try to edit around how bad the lines were coming out.
Yeah, it's a shame. I was not convinced in her character at all. I mean, she's supposed to kind of be a Sarah Connor to some degree, where she's spent all this time with all this knowledge that she knows.
But Sarah Connor saw the end of the world through a future.
Exactly.
She just went through watching some people die.
It was a murder.
She didn't watch anybody die.
I don't even think she saw anybody die. Well, even Michael's motive. Like, what is his motive with her? If they're going to retcon this and get rid of her being the sister or whatever, why is there even a connection to these two characters at all?
Spoiler alert, she's not his sister, she's his brother. Why retcon it? Like, there's nothing wrong with her being the sister. If all you're gonna do is like he still has a mark on her, but did he really? He was just killing other people in this movie. Did he really give a fuck about her at all? It doesn't even make sense. Like, she's kind of going after him for a little bit in this movie, but then she's running from him. Like, there's no narrative to this movie.
Why did she turn into fucking Burt Ward from Tremors? You know, why? I don't understand it. Don't get it.
Michael looked great in this movie.
Yeah,
the look of his mask, the look of the actor playing him, his body, language, his body shape, because it's varied from movie to movie. But they did a great job. He was menacing. I really thought that there was some great shots, iconic kind of shots of him in this film.
There were some creepy moments where he's with the mask. The mask was pretty creepy for this movie. I'll give it that.
It was one of the best masks. How did those fucking Brits get it?
Apparently they have evidence from the case. But
fucking podcasters.
Yeah.
You mean William Atherton? Yeah.
I was glad that it had the typical teenagers. I wasn't sure if we were just going to follow Laurie Strode as an older woman dealing with this and the doctors or whatever. I didn't know if we'd have our typical set of teenage victims, so I was glad that there was a group of teenage victims in this movie. I thought this movie was going to try and tell a different story, not just be a standard slasher movie in its template to some degree, but it really was.
He definitely came off creepy. Some of his victims were not maybe who you would expect, and in the beginning I thought, oh shit, this is going to be crazy.
I enjoyed Michael Myers. I enjoyed the sound design they gave him. They did go back to that breathing, which is always, to me, one of the scariest things about the original Halloween is when the movie's over, he disappears, spoilers for 78, when he disappears off the grass and like everyone's kind of looking around, and then the camera just cuts to all these different spots that we've seen in the film, and his breathing is getting higher and higher and higher. That's the most effective fucking scare in the movie, is that very end, because where is he? He's still lurking. Is he in this house? Is he in this house? This movie goes back to that breathing. I think it did pick the right spots. If I have to say there's something that was very effective in this movie, was when they chose to use the sound design, because they're really, for a slasher movie, some of my positives, there's not a lot of jump scares in this movie.
No.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys about was the score, because that really bothered me in this movie. I noticed it early on. It didn't fit. There was something odd about the music going on in the background about this movie that just, it didn't fit for me. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I felt it was lacking in score at times. I mean, I know they specifically chose to have scenes that don't involve score, but they have other little nods to the previous films before.
There were closet scene, reverse parallels.
Yeah, which I found interesting. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of laughed at a couple of them.
I laughed at almost all of them. Yeah. Because the movie has fucking no scares. It's not scary. It's not tense. It's not anxiety driven. It doesn't make you fearful. It's not full of dread. So these fucking millennials die. What's new? It was very obvious when they were like, when you see his reflection in a window. They use the same shit that harkens right back to the original one. Anything that was just lifted straight from the original one is fine, but it was obvious. I like the last 20 minutes of this movie quite a bit. I like the last 20 minutes because it was the only time in the movie where I was almost like, you know what, I have to piss, but I guess I'll stay and see how it turns out. And then I was almost like, holy shit, I gotta piss really bad, but like I'm kind of now hooked into this movie.
I'll tell you, there was a point where I was ready to walk out of this movie.
Me too.
I'm not going to mention the scene, but if you see this movie, you will know what scene I'm talking about. I was ready to get the fuck up and leave.
Now, is this late or middle M. Night Shyamalan plot twist bad?
I agree with you guys. There's that moment. I wasn't ready to get up and walk out, but I was like, this movie just jumped the shark at that moment.
I'm surprised you said that, because I seriously was like, if this stays like this, I'm
Yeah.
gonna excuse myself
Yeah.
from this theater.
Yep. No, I'm so glad that we're on the same page there because I'm glad I'm not the only one, man. I was thinking,
Wow, that
fuck
was bad,
this, man.
In retrospect, I get it because it's different. It's different than who you thought that person was just gonna replace. It's kind of different, but it was bad though. I was like, uh-oh.
I can't spoil it, but God, how the f*** did he carry that 250-pound guy with arm, that old man, and throw him in the back of the truck?
Just get it out.
God damn it. After he's shot in the shoulder and throw him in the back of a truck. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck this movie. I only sat through because it cost me $13 to fucking sit through it. My favorite part of the movie was the credits rolling, for fuck's sake.
How about the after credit scene?
Oh yeah, we had a great surprise at the end of the credits.
It works visually as something like maybe Trick or Treat, which I think is a far superior film to this, but because it's not really a scary movie, but it invokes the holiday a little bit.
Yep.
And I do think that this movie
Good point.
is called Halloween, and it does take place on Halloween, and there's Halloween things. There's maybe not as many as I would have liked, but there was a Halloween vibe to this movie. If you watch the original, there's barely anything in There's barely the trick-or-treaters are done like before it's even dark. You don't even see anything. They're carving a pumpkin. Like a lot of stuff in the first one doesn't make any sense. They're like, oh, let's make popcorn and carve a pumpkin, but it's supposed to be like midnight and there's no people left. Like, so why are you carving a pumpkin to put out in the middle of the night? Look at what we're doing tonight. We're in the festive mood of Halloween. It does have that, but as a horror movie, it's not a scary movie.
Well, and anybody who's spent a night at home on Halloween night recently in the last 10, 15 years, there are no kids trick-or-treating anymore. Kids do not do that anymore.
Would you agree that the millennials in this movie were a lot less annoying with like techno gadgets? It's almost like they made it a throwback because like, yeah, they have a cell phone. He throws a cell phone in the thing. Yeah. This movie literally just scrapes all that away, and I appreciated that. Like every character, they don't have cell phones that they use. There's hardly even references to that stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of disappointed there were no titty scenes in this movie, though. I mean, you gotta have that.
Can't do it anymore,
slashers.
man.
Yeah.
You can't do it anymore.
Can't treat women that way. Come on, man.
You can thank Harvey Weinstein
Fuck
for
me,
not
right?
showing any gratuitous nudity
Fuck
in
me
horror
too.
movies.
I do think it's the goriest Halloween movie, and I enjoyed that. I thought there were some great kills in this movie. Some that do stand out to me, I think. I think there were some effective moments of slasher movie making. I mean, I have big issues with how this movie was filmed,
Fuck
but
yeah.
I do think there was a couple scenes when you first start really kind of getting the slasher element of this movie going that really worked for me. Not to be scary, but still worked as like when you're on the killer side and you're not really rooting for the person who's about to get killed. Some hits and some misses, more misses than hits. I'm going to give this a 5.5.
Michael Myers looked great in this movie. That's one of the highlights, is that he does look menacing. The problem is the filmmakers just didn't utilize the shape coming out of the shadows where we're following the girl who's, you know, I'm not saying she has to be taking a shower, but is that too much to fucking ask for? He's doing laundry or making popcorn and he's just fucking staring at her in the window. Like, you don't get those in this. You get too much point of view of him, and that kind of takes away the tension. I didn't connect with it. It was very unfocused, and I'm very disappointed to say that because I wanted to love this movie. There's some good stuff in this movie to see. There it is. There's good kills. Is it David Gordon Green? He's cool. He's got good comic timing on his comedies. I think they should have picked a better director, or not a better, but a director more suited for something like this. So I gotta go right down the middle, 5 gulps for me.
This movie was flat as fuck for me. I don't know why it had to be made. I found myself laughing a lot more than I was scared. I was not scared at all during this movie. You both said, I'll reiterate, no tension, no scares. It was very flat. I think the writing was poor. The acting was poor, probably a result from the shitty writing. There were some cool death scenes. I'll give it that. But overall, the movie was just flat. It was forgettable. I have no interest in seeing this movie again. I give this movie 3 gulps. I think that's the lowest score I've ever given. 3 gulps. And I think I'm being generous on that.
Wow.
That was a scary story.
That story was so scary, Devin, I gotta clean the excrement out of my shorts. John, how scary was that story?
A lot scarier than the movie. I'm over here standing in a puddle.
And that is our Gulp review of Halloween 2018.
As always, if you like this review, click like and or subscribe to Cinema Gulp today. You can leave some comments in the comments section below. Where can they find us?
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Look for us under Cinema Gulp.
Until next time, I'm Ben.
I'm John.
And I'm Devin. We drink your cinema!
I drink it up!
Anything can happen on Halloween. Your dog could turn into a cat. There may be a toad in your bass guitar, or your sister could turn into a bat. Christmas time brings the snow. Summertime